Welcome back, Pack, to another Godot video. Today we'll be doing a top-down example with GDScript, and then on Wednesday we'll be doing the same thing in visual scripting. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a 2D kinematic body. And basically what that is just it handles collision. It's for moving, like a player. And we're going to rename it player, if I can spell right. And then we're going to add a sprite to actually give it a look, and then we're going to click the player again and add a collision body or a collision shape. The collision shape is going to handle collision. The sprite is what our player is going to look like. We're going to use the icon that comes with a new file. Just drag and drop it into texture. And then for collision shape, we're going to use a rectangle. And I actually have snapping on, so let me turn that off. There we go. Just resize it. And we're going to click the player and click this icon up here. It basically makes sure that the children cannot be selectable when moving. And even though we're not going to actually use any of that in this video, it's good practice for whenever you do start making games. And that's it for the player. We're going to move him down a little. I'm going to save this. You can press Control S, but due to my software, I cannot use that. We're just going to save it as player. And now we're ready to add some coding. If we click on the player in our scene list, you'll get this little icon up here. It's for attaching new scripts, or say you wrote script somewhere else and you want to attach it to here. You can import a script. We're going to be using GDScript, so there's no need to change that. Just hit create. Now a little bit about GDScript. We have a couple things that are commented out. There we go. We have a couple things that are commented out, just examples, such as these are where your variables will go. As you can see, it says, for example. So we're just going to go ahead and delete those. And this is where your function ready is called whenever your object or your node is added into the scene, as it says. So say you want to position it, or you want to do something funky before you actually start the game. That's where you'll put the code at. We are going to be using this function process delta. So let's just get rid of all that, get rid of this pound. The pound sign is used for commenting in Godot. Oops. The first thing we're going to do is set up the 4 movements. So we need 4 if statements. The first one is if input is action pressed, and that's going to tell Godot to check for one of the action buttons that we specify. The action button that we specify. We are going to start with UI left. Oops. Okay, that was weird. Is action pressed UI left colon, and I'm just gonna comment check if left arrow key is pressed. You can change those up here in the project settings. So if you go project settings, input, here's your UI. All the UIs that are listed. So UI left will be a device button, like the D-pad if you're using a joystick, or just the left arrow key. Now, if it is, I forgot, we need some variables first. So let's add a couple variables. Let's add a speed variable. Oops. And we're gonna set that to, let's say 50 for now. And before we start setting up that, we need to add a variable, new position, and that is going to be a vector2, and we want to set it to 0, 0. What this variable does is we're going to be using that variable for the movement. Anytime we call for new position, we want to call for a change between our variable new position. A vector2 is two axi. So for example, not for example, for 2D games, it will be X and Y, whereas the vector 3 will have X, Y, and Z. And I think that's it as far as explaining what that does. Now, we're going to test that new position, and we want the X value because left and right are going along the X axis. And we're going to subtract 1 from that value. Now, I believe that GDScript is based off of Python, and to subtract, it will be minus equals 1, that subtracts 1, or is equal to new position minus 1. There's multiple ways you can write it. For me, this is just the fastest way. And we're going to copy that. If input is action button, and now we're going to check the right button. Just comment, check if right arrow key is pressed. We're going to set the new position of the X to plus, whoops, plus equals 1. There we go. If input is action button press UI up. Now for up and down, that's going to be on the Y axis. So we're going to check the Y axis, and we're going to minus equals 1, and then if input dot is action pressed down UI, just make a comment real quick, check if the down arrow key is pressed. We want to set the new position of Y to plus equals 1. Now, we need one more thing, and that is what's called a move and slide function, or sorry, move and collide function. And Godot has this cool feature where if you hold control and click, it'll bring up explanations for that code. For move and collide, you can read that it moves the body along the vector. This body will stop if collided, return a kinematic. Returns a kinematic with collision for 2D, which contains information about the collision. So that collision body that we set up, if we actually had walls or enemies or things of that nature, it will automatically feed back until the sprite wins to stop if it's colliding with something, things of that nature. And you can do that with anything in here. So if I want to know more about is action just press, it's Boolean is out. Sorry, Boolean is action just pressed. It'll return a yes or no. Returns true when you start pressing action event, and that will be under input. You can also search the docs up here. So kinematic bodies, and there's the same kinematic body that we already have open right there. Anyway, back to this move and slide command. We are going to take the new position and we want to normalize it. And just open that up real quick. Find it. There we go. It's right here, vector2 normalize. It returns normalized vector of the unit. So our input won't be compiling upon itself. And In order for it to move, we need to multiply that by our speed value. And since we want things to be regulated, we are going to use delta time. So we have to multiply that by the delta from the process function. And so delta movement using the kinematic body move and glide function. Ah, there it is. Okay, so I messed up. I had as action just pressed for the left movement. Now if we run this should run correctly. There we go. Well, it looks like it doesn't want to pull up. You'll figure out Wednesday. I will see you guys then.